Hi everybody and welcome back to our Q&A. We've had some great responses from the last one and we're continuing with more Q&As that are coming through. So keep them coming and we can give you more of what you want. So the next one, which is a biggie for Paul, is the reasons for choosing diesel or petrol, regardless of consumption. Which one's better? Which one isn't?
Well, thank you for that. It is an interesting topic and it's been debated over many, many years. And I know in Europe now the guys are not able to actually use the 4.2 diesels because you cannot get the emissions done. So it is a situation where the guys are having to buy the petrols. But for years I've always believed that there's nothing wrong with taking a petrol vehicle into Africa. The biggest consideration, you need to have capacity so you can actually have the range you need. And a good 1,000 kilometers is really more than what most people ever need. And for the one time that you need to have more than that, then use jerry cans. Fill them up. If you have to put them on your roof, it's not ideal, but it means you can empty them as quickly as you need to. Get rid of them if you don't need them, and actually just have a vehicle that's really practical. One of the big advantages of a petrol vehicle over the old 4.2 is that it actually is a lot more powerful. So when you're going to go up to altitude, it does make a big difference. So is it right, is it wrong? Is not a right or wrong. Nowadays, when we're looking at older vehicles, we're really looking at what vehicles we can buy, what is the quality of the second-hand vehicle we're using. Or if it's a brand new vehicle, really no issues with choosing the petrol over the diesel, depending on where you're traveling. You've got to remember that certain parts of the world are more difficult to get good quality fuels, and certain parts, the more complex vehicles, the new V8s and the new common rail engines, are more difficult to fix. So you do need to have workshops that can help you if you're going to go remote and going to be into these far-flung places on expedition. So go back to the values that we always talk about. Keep it simple. Work with the older technology because you can fix it in remote places. And it's a big topic to discuss, so yeah, we can always talk more about it, eh?
Yep. So the next one is choosing a rooftop tent or a normal tent in terms of weight, in terms of safety, etc. So one of the things that we encourage people is to first decide what kind of travel are you doing. Are you going to be living in and around your vehicle? Are you going to put down pegs at one campsite and that's going to be you, so that you're going to drive in and out? Or do you need to be on the move? So rooftop tent is for convenience sake, bottom line. Your bedding is in there, it's flip up, flip down, easy go, and you've got it all on tap. Your ground tent is more convenient if you want to firm up where you're going to be coming back to at night, or if you've got families. Families, if you're having two tents, not ideal. People wake each other up and grumpiness on overlanding is never a good thing. So ground tents for families and for, pegging your site out, and rooftop tent for convenience and also budget. So what thoughts have you got?
No, Joe's right. I think, rooftop tent, traditionally, when you're doing big, long overland travels, you're tired at night. To come into a camp, to set out a ground tent takes time. And, you want to get up in the morning, you want to get going, you're moving on, you're not coming back to the campsite. So both have a place. You also need to consider your physicality. Are you able to climb up the ladders, up and down ladders? If you're going to the loo at night, as men get older, we have to pee more often. It's a matter of getting old. That also becomes a problem. So,
but also women are not feeling comfortable to go out at night when there's animals lurking around. So there's pros and cons for both.
There absolutely is. And I think it's about, when you're in the bush and you understand the ways of the bush, you can make it safe to come down from a roof tent and do what you need to do. That's not a problem. But it is about understanding what are your needs. And two roof tents on a vehicle is very difficult to make it work.
Weight.
One person wakes up, and Joe's right, the weight is a big thing. So weight high up, the big advantage that you do say is, when you've got a ground tent, a good sturdy ground tent is not light. It's a good 20 odd kilos. You've also got to consider what bedding you're putting in there, mattresses, if you're putting stretchers in, all this is bulk and all this has to go somewhere on your vehicle. So both work. Definitely if you're starting out, I would encourage people, start out, use a ground tent, see how you like it. Because you can start with a very cost-effective ground tent and you can progress to a roof tent if that's what you'd like to go and use. And maybe if you haven't used a roof tent, hire a vehicle, try one, use a friend's one. Just get a night in a roof tent. You need a few nights in a roof tent to get used to it. It is different, it is a bit smaller, but it is a great experience as well. So yeah.
How do we navigate cross-border challenges? It's a very common question, so thanks for asking that one. Cross-border challenges don't always have to be that way. The first tip would be decide between the two of you who's the better negotiator.
Yeah.
Who's the one who's going to be friendly with the officials when they get maybe a little bit tetchy? And so pick the right person. Get your paperwork ready and prepared. Go with a good attitude. And it really isn't a big deal. Just be prepared with paperwork and a good attitude. It's as simple as that. But Paul's got some other thoughts.
And Joe and I have crossed, but I've crossed hundreds of borders. And I always say to people, enjoy the experience. You're going to connect with local people. Learn their greeting. So when you greet them in their language. It just shows a sign of respect. Look at how you dressed. You know, if you go in with the skirt too short, the top too low, the filthy, dirty clothes, you're basically also not showing much respect. Patience is your virtue. You have to have a lot of patience. And I always believe that if you go greet the people, I always put a hand out, shake their hand, just be sincere in your communications. You know, they've got a job to do. They can make it a pleasant experience for you or they can make it very difficult.
And that's up to you.
Based on your attitude. Mm-hmm. And that's why we say attitude is really critical.
Yep.
You're going to find when you get to a lot of these borders, there's a long row of trucks. They end up waiting in the long time trying to get through. So you don't have to sit at the back of the trucks. If you've never crossed some of the borders in Africa, you can literally go right to the front, find out where you've got to park. Make sure you observe the speed limits coming up to the border crossings because they are very vigilant about that. And if it says stop, you stop and then you cross over. Look for any kind of officialdom that might be guiding you into where you need to go. And then you're going to have the fun with all the touts who come along, these youngsters, these kids who come to actually help you. And it can be a bit daunting at first because they come crowding in and they all want to change money and they want to help you get through the whole border process. Enjoy it. Pick one. If I'm going to change money, I normally sit in the car, wind my window down, I'll choose one guy. I'll know the rate. We'll kind of already know the rate. I expect them to make a bit of money on it, that's fine. And I won't change too much money. So I'll change enough. I'll show them the dollars invariably if it's Africa that I'm going to change. Joe will hang on to it. I'll count out the money they're giving me to make sure that it is all correct and it's not a bundle of notes that are not correct. And then we'll swap over and the deal's done. And then they'll also want to look after your vehicle. Great, I love it. I'm happy to pay a little kid to look after my truck. Again, I choose one, normally the biggest looking, strongest one. And I kind of do something which I think is useful. Any of the guys helping me, so a guy looking after the car or someone who's going to take us through the border process, some of them will have a little badge on them. Great, looks more official. And then I love to get a photograph with them. Joe, take a picture. And I'm doing that for two reasons. One is now I know who I'm working with. And secondly, we've got a record. If there's any issues, I've got a record of this guy. So it just adds to the fun. And these kids will take you through the whole process of going through the border, make it painless. There are little issues that they will try their luck. If you're going to pay money over to something, get a receipt. Simple. If they're going to stamp in a carnet or your passport, check it. Check the dates. Make sure you've got your folder that you walk through the border with all your documents. I generally take good color copies of all my documents. I use those. They're normally certified and I keep the originals in the car. And I just work with the copies so that if there's any issues, I can always revert back to my originals. And just go and have some fun and enjoy it. Get through the other side and hell, then you're in the country. It's great. It's a great relief and a lot of fun.
So the last question for this episode is, how do I persuade my wife to go on my overland dream? And the best way to do that is to include her from the get-go. Explain what your dream is, why it's important to you, why it's important for her to be involved. What does she think? What does she feel? What are her fears? What are her concerns? What is her dream? Because maybe her dream is nothing like your dream, but maybe she wants to support you with your encouragement. Sales and marketing is always good. But then also for her to look forward to you also wanting to participate in her dream at maybe a later stage. It's about teamwork. It's about collaboration. It's about communication. And most of all, inclusivity. And involve her in the process from the start. So what a lot of our clients do is they will put in a request for a call with Paul, and the first thing he says is your wife going with you? Is she joining you? Please can we include her in the next call and the ongoing calls? So she's part of every step. You can't expect somebody to be involved in something if you don't include them in it, and they're just a passenger, because you actually need the support. You need the co-pilot to work with you on the journey. You'll each have roles and responsibilities, which we've spoken about in other episodes, but the most important thing is inclusivity, because teamwork is what makes the dream work. Anything
great.
you want to add?
No, I think it's so true, and I think that's what Joe is so good at, the communication aspect, the inclusivity. I can't add more. It's lovely. It's lovely to see people start out working together and come back solidified in the experience that they've had. And it's priceless. No money can be put to that experience. Just go and do it.
Thanks so much for your questions. We love coming back to you with the answers that you're looking for. If you'd like to see more, please like and subscribe and click on the link below if you'd like to become a patron on Patreon.